Tonight on 24, attacks on protesting students on the fourth day of protests in Iranian universities.
Utterly shameful.
Government officials used warnings, tear gas, and tasers to end the gatherings.
Stay united, stand firm. Do not let a normal image be created of our wounded homeland.
Prince Reza Pahlavi supports student protests. Nothing is normal, and the struggle continues. Rubio's confidential meeting with Congress on Iran decision. At the same time, Tehran says every necessary step will be taken to reach an agreement. And the largest U.S. military deployment since the attack on Iraq, 2 aircraft carriers and hundreds of fighter jets stationed in the region, awaiting Trump's order for military action against the Islamic Republic.
From Iran International, this is 24 with Fardad Farahzad.
Hello and good evening to Iran International viewers worldwide. Coinciding with the fourth day of the new round of student protests in Iran, students from over 15 universities gathered. Security forces, Fajij, and agents in a number of these universities, including Khaja Nasir and Elmo Farhang, attacked protesting students with tear gas and tasers, and at least one student has been arrested at Azad University Mashhad branch. On Tuesday, Esfand 5th, gatherings occurred at Sura, Iran Art, Sharif, Elmo Sanat, Elmo Ferran, Pars Art and Architecture, El Zahra, Azab Moshad, Sajjad Mashhad, Beheshti, Khaja Nasir, Isfahan University of Technology, and Tehran's Technical and Social Sciences faculties. Electrical engineering students at Tehran Polytechnic staged a sit-in for fallen students. During the event, they chanted slogans against Khamenei and the Islamic Republic and in support of Prince Reza Pahlavi.
Shameless, 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 shameless. Students die unbowed. Praise the killer's leader. You have no honor. Students die. They don't accept humiliation. Students die. They simply do not accept humiliation.
Meanwhile, Prince Reza Pahlavi told students that they have turned the reopening of universities into a loud cry of the nation, showcased the strong bond between university and nation, and shown that Iran is alive and the nation's will cannot be extinguished. He asked students to stand firm.
My brave student children of Iran, you turned reopening universities into a national cry, showcasing the strong bond between university and nation. You showed that Iran is alive and the will of the nation cannot be extinguished. Almost 50 years ago, my father accurately foresaw exactly how future generations would eventually judge him and the services he provided. Today, you have answered history's call. His soul is at peace because he sees that the children of Iran are awake and are standing with courage and awareness to reclaim Iran. Stay united, stand firm. Do not let a normal image be created of our wounded homeland. As long as our people are being killed, our sisters and brothers are condemned to execution, and our mothers and fathers, spouses and children are grieving. As long as this dark night does not end and Iran is not freed from the grip of this occupying regime, nothing is normal. Our struggle will not end. The future is yours. It belongs to you who spoke up, rose up, and stood firm. Together, we will take back Iran and rebuild it. Long live Iran. May the lion and sun revolution of the Iranian nation be victorious.
Ali Zarchi, a faculty member at Sharif University of Technology, which he and many protesters now call Arya Mer, is with us. Mr. Zarchi, thank you for accepting. You recently left Iran and know the academic environment well, especially Sharif University, or as you call it, Arya Mer. Were you surprised by the scale of these university protests and the strong slogans against the government, the Islamic Republic's leader, or Prince Reza Pahlavi? Or did you foresee this potential in Iran's academic environment?
Greetings to noble Iran. Greetings to the immortalized, the children of the homeland who sacrificed their lives for Iran. No, this wave of protests was very much predictable. You see, since 1401, when events following Mahsa Amini's tragic death occurred, Sharif University and now Arya Mer and other universities were among the first places to raise their voices in protest for one life and to show how free the Iranian nation is and how much even taking a single breath matters to them. And however, the Iranian nation has been a very patient nation. For several decades, they stood firm. For several decades, they held silent marches. They held silent sit-ins with very mild slogans, with patient reformist movements, waiting for this regime to change its approach. But then, what was the outcome? Now, people are seeing that some banks have gone bankrupt. Pension funds, which are supposed to provide capital for a generation in the coming decades, are in absolutely no good state. They're seeing the inflation situation. In contrast, they're seeing the rest of the world. I don't know how these economic experts assess the costs of this government on the Iranian nation and on Iran, both its direct costs and its indirect costs. Let me give you an example. In 1995, Norway established a sovereign wealth fund built upon its oil resources. Starting from zero, the fund has grown to over $2 trillion, effectively securing the financial future of several generations to come. Norway has 1/3 Iran's oil and 1/16 its population. So both its oil ratio is much lower and its oil to population ratio is also much lower. Norway lacks resources like gas, copper, iron, coal, and uranium. Furthermore, it doesn't have Iran's geographical situation of being a bridge between East and West. I mentioned Norway, but dozens of other countries could also be cited. Countries that either had more resources or fewer resources, but then they utilize them in the best way possible in a competitive economic environment. For 20 years, the people of Iran patiently waited for the realization of slogans promising that by 2025, Iran would lead the region economically, free from poverty, corruption, and discrimination, ensuring human dignity. Is this the reality today? Of course not. Although the people endured patiently, they have simply had enough now. Let me list for you the protests at Arya Mer University of Technology itself. On January 7th, the first protest sparked at Aladdin Passage. On January 9th, students from Arya Mer University of Technology gathered in the center and shouted, And at that time, for the first time in 47 years, I myself and dozens of others who were present at that gathering, we all heard with our own ears the shouts, of Pahlavi, supporting Prince Pahlavi. And for me, it was a very new event at that time, because after 47 years, I was seeing that for the first time, slogans were being chanted in support of Pahlavi. However, gradually we began to observe the slogan appearing within the calls for. January 18th and 19th resonated throughout the country and now in universities.
Your point is interesting because universities are, after all, more intellectual environments. Many assume strong leftist tendencies, yet even religious ones exist in some Iranian universities. Are such slogans, especially in support of the Pahlavi dynasty, surprising to you, or do you think this has now turned into a movement, a wave across the country that has united everyone, regardless of whether it's the bazaar or the university?
Look, a university isn't just one movement, organization, or way of thinking. A university is a place for dialogue, a place for different movements to be present. Yes, individuals with leftist ideologies are in that university, but they are very few. Some, for example, still even promote Marxist or communist ideologies. However, few exist. What we are actually witnessing in the vast majority of instances is that as we move progressively closer to the present time, that nationalistic perspective and that, consensus-based view formed around the prince has expanded in both influence and scope.
Mr. Zarchi, I guess conditions are difficult for the government right now, since the university environment is relatively controlled. They can't easily say that these are Mossad, MI6, and CIA agents who have entered the streets. In a university environment where everyone requires an entry card, to what extent could this limit arrests or prevent closure? If this continues, do you think this system might become the government's Achilles heel?
Look, I also used Achilles' heel on BBC Persian last night. I said this is exactly where the government cannot easily label it. They came and said that, all those several thousand people, now first they claimed 3,000 people, and said, we've published all the names. The very first hour they published the names, I myself very easily checked 1 or 2 Telegram channels that published the names of the martyrs. Out of 100 names, I very easily looked and saw that 20 of them were not published in the government's list. Yesterday, HRNA published a very, very important report on 7,000 people with their names, details, city, and, the time of their martyrdom. This infuriating list exposes the regime's truths and lies. In addition to that, they came and said that all these several thousand people were killed by 690 terrorists who had infiltrated among the people. And those 690 were one of the biggest lies of this government, alongside their attempt to downplay the number of casualties. You saw how they published videos and photos of the single Shah Chirag terrorist for several weeks. 690 terrorists infiltrate the population and carry out attacks. And all of us who were in the demonstrations and stuff witnessed that these suppression forces always have cameras with them. I don't know, with their phones, with handheld cameras, or I've recently seen that some police officers also use these body cameras on their uniforms. Where's their media? I am certain the Iranian government will never publish the list of 690 terrorists from among the 3,000 people it claims. However, let us return to the regime's persistent strategy of attempting to label absolutely everyone as a foreign asset, whether a CIA spy, a Mossad agent, or perhaps a member of the MEK. The university is their weakness. The university students are the children of these very people. Everyone knows that. They're all their own kids. And when the masses are all shouting with one unified voice against the criminal dictator Khamenei and the violent, bloodthirsty Islamic Republic regime, no one else can accuse them of being children of the enemy or, I don't know, provoked. No, they are seeing that all windows of hope have been closed. They are seeing that Khamenei is the most cowardly leader in the world, who isn't willing, after 20 years of rule and those commitments he made to the people, that we will be the first peak. And I don't know, we are near the peak, and our economic situation has the first rank to come and answer to the people. So what happened to those promises? Khamenei always tries to hide himself and say that I am not an economics expert. One point that we often forget is that you might, for a moment, imagine Khamenei's power is limited to just those heads of branches of government. I don't know, the Guardian Council, or actually the armed forces. In RMF University of Technology itself, and in every single university, they have created a capillary network called the Office of the Supreme Leader's Representative. For every single student they want to issue a disciplinary ruling against, in RMF University of Technology, 3 people are members of that disciplinary committee: the university president, the student vice president, and the head of Khamenei's representative office. If a professor's contract is to be renewed, or, I don't know, they're to be hired, one of the few members who votes again is the head of Khamenei's representative office, meaning Khamenei, who controls the most minute and capillary events in this country through his Friday Bearer leaders, through his representative offices, and who controls filtering through the representatives he has placed in the Supreme Council of Cyberspace, and who has placed the Supreme Council of Cultural Revolution over every single university professor, isn't even willing to come and present one of his promises in front of a few journalists, let alone the general public. He isn't even willing to come and present one of his promises in front of a few journalists, let alone the general public, to sit down with a few journalists and answer. And in my opinion, he is the most cowardly leader in the world, and the most traitorous leader in the world, because anyone might sell their own homeland for something. Khamenei exchanged everything for his own worthless, misguided ideology, rooted in Muslim Brotherhood perspectives and Sayyid Qutb's thoughts. He follows empty ideals and wrong ideas, chasing unclear goals that offer nothing of real value. He chants anti-American slogans for decades, until American warships reach Iran's backyard, and he wastes trillions of dollars of this country's wealth on nothing. And exactly when he sees the danger is serious, he begs for negotiations. He wastes trillions of this country's wealth on nothing. And exactly when he sees the danger is serious, he begs for negotiations. Back when Shinzo Abe, one of the world's most prestigious leaders, came with honor to bring a message of peace, he said, no, we won't negotiate. Until just days ago, he was saying negotiation is neither wise nor honorable. Now they fall into begging to negotiate. This has cost several generations and thousands of lives spilled on the ground. And this is why the nation doesn't want the murderers of their children to remain in power.
Thank you. Ali Sharifi Zarchi, Sharif University of Technology faculty. In the past hours, conflicting reports have been published about clashes around Ali Khamenei's office early Monday morning in Tehran. State media denied reports of armed clashes around the office of the Islamic Republic's leader and the Pasteur area, and the closure of schools in that area yesterday. However, the People's Mojahedin Organization, MEK, had reported an hour ago that over 100 of its members were killed or arrested in heavy clashes in this area. Tasneem news agency, affiliated with the IRGC, denied this report, quoting official sources as saying that not even a single bullet was fired in this area, and if any arrests occurred, they were part of the usual and normal process. However, the People's Mojahedin Organization, MEK, announced that its forces also inflicted damages in these attacks early Monday morning. Journalist Jamshid Barzagar joins us from London. Mr. Barzagar, with so many contradictory reports, finding the truth is difficult. This is especially true in the Islamic Republic, where accurate news from Pasteur Street is rare even on normal days, let alone now. What is your assessment of the events that likely took place?
Greetings to you. As you mentioned, Mr. Farahzad, Contradictory news was published yesterday, meaning Monday. Several news websites inside Iran, like Mumtaz News, Arya, and most importantly, Bulletin News, which are close to the Revolutionary Guard, published news stating that explosive sounds were heard in the area of Pastor Street and Jumhuri Street, which is actually the center of many main institutions. Ali Khamenei's office, known as his Beit, the Guardian Council, the Supreme National Security Council, and many governmental institutions were heard. The Roydad 24 website had also reported the closure of schools in that same area and had said that school officials contacted families and requested they actively intervene to prevent students from attending these specific schools. Furthermore, as a matter of fact, special police forces have been widely deployed throughout that entire area to strictly enforce the prohibition and maintain total control. Today, meaning Tuesday, the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, PMOI, spoke about how they actually carried out an operation from Monday morning that continued until the afternoon, and during which, in fact, over 100 people were killed or arrested. The PMOI said that over 150 other people, according to the organization, were deployed in the second circle, all of whom, according to the organization, safely returned to their bases. Following, in fact, the publication of this news by the PMOI, we again witnessed that contradictory news was published in the state media of the Islamic Republic, as you mentioned. For example, the Revolutionary Guard-affiliated Tasnim news agency denied it, saying not a single bullet was fired and nothing happened. But Mehr News Agency spoke about how meaning a small number of PMOI members, by, in fact, resorting to tools like children's toys, tried to create conflict and tension in that area, but they were not successful. The PMOI has not explained what the actual reason for this attack was, or what the main goal of this operation actually was, especially considering that in recent months, since the 12-day war until now, numerous media reports have been published stating that Ali Khamenei is currently living in a secure underground hideout, venturing out only to appear in his office's Husseiniye to deliver formal speeches during specific carefully planned occasions. Consequently, the full dimensions and scope of this matter are not entirely clear. On the other hand, officials from the Ministry of Education also denied the closure of schools in that area. And, of course, the PMOI has announced that it will soon announce the names and details of those 100 people it said were killed or arrested. Alongside these existing ambiguities, state news agencies also pointed to other points, specifically claiming that the PMOI, in competition with Prince Reza Pahlavi, posed a challenge, is trying to create a news wave. They actually attributed this to these types of rivalries, and also the relations that exist between this organization, according to these news agencies, with countries like America and Israel. However, as I previously noted, there really are not very many specific details available right now. Additionally, this specific point is noteworthy, given that the area is in central Tehran. If armed clashes or explosions had actually occurred, we should have logically witnessed the news on a significantly wider scale. One would expect to see immediate reports specifically on social media, yet quite evidently, this reflection was nowhere to be seen.
Thank you, London journalist Jamshid Barzegaf. As you also said, naturally, there are many ambiguities, but we will try to monitor, and if more details reach us, we will definitely inform the viewers. The U.S. Secretary of State today, in a confidential meeting at the White House with a number of senior congressional representatives known as the Gang of Eight, is talking about Iran, and according to reports, he is discussing Washington's new stance on Tehran with these individuals. This group includes the majority and minority leaders of the Senate and House of Representatives, along with the chairs and senior members of the intelligence committees of both chambers, and the U.S. government only informs this group on highly sensitive security matters. With American force deployments increasing, U.S. media reports state that Donald Trump must finalize his decision on Iran. Based on these reports, Pentagon commanders warned about the risk of Iranian retaliation, prolonged conflict, and strain on resources, but Trump has said if a war starts, America will easily win. Simultaneously with the path of negotiation, the deployment of U.S. forces and military equipment in the Middle East has been described by some observers as the country's largest military buildup in the region since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Reports say over 150 military aircraft moved to bases in Europe and the Middle East, and 2 U.S. aircraft carriers, the USS Gerald R. Ford and USS Abraham Lincoln, are now near Iran. At the same time, the Washington Post reported that satellite images show over 60 fighter jets, including dozens of advanced F-35s, have been deployed at an air base in Jordan. Also, F-22 Radar and F-16 fighter jets have been transferred to European bases, and E-3G refueling and early warning aircraft have also increased in the region. Meanwhile, according to JINSA, the Islamic Republic is also trying to revive its offensive deterrence. JINSA wrote that despite losing 40 to 60% of its medium-range missile reserves in the 12-day war, the Islamic Republic has once again brought its arsenal back to about 2,000 missiles. And at the same time, it's on the verge of signing a contract with China to purchase anti-ship cruise missiles. Our correspondent, Ardavan Ruzbey, joined us from our other studio in Washington. Ardavan, we're getting a lot of details from various angles, including this security meeting in the U.S. Congress and equipment developments in the region. Give us an overall picture of where Congress and the U.S. military currently stand.
I should mention that the most important point regarding Mr. Ruby's meeting is that they say it is not normal at all. This is actually an important session regarding explaining the situation with Iran, meaning, well, the situation the United States will have concerning Iran. The people who will be at this meeting are very important individuals who usually receive the government's most confidential information. This 8-person group will include the majority and minority leaders of the Senate and House, plus the chairs and senior members of the intelligence committees from both chambers. Provided by the Washington Post, it seems the United States has central command, as it's usually anticipated, maintains that if the government wants to take a specific action regarding it informs Congress so that it can at least have their positive overarching goal and is to ensure that ahead of the program Mr. Trump are kept safely be an important session, and I think its results will also be brought up in tonight's section of Iran. Military planners government officials to avoid establishing what could be considered the important matter of Iran or high-value installations located in areas where the Islamic Republic might feel emboldened to launch an offensive. This strategy is driven by a desire to mitigate risk and enhance force protection. The number of positioning troops and currently stationed in provocative or easily strikeable locations CENTCOM aims to reduce the likelihood of this operation if it's going to happen. Essentially, the command seeks to project power across the region without offering easy opportunities for the adversary to strike, thereby neutralizing potential threats before they materialize into direct attacks on American facilities. For this reason, Al-Udeid has been partially evacuated, but in Europe near Iran's borders, they are stationed. A portion of the U.S. Army ground forces have been transferred from Syria to Erbil province, and on the other hand, the Islamic Republic also doesn't seem to find the negotiation results very interesting, and for this reason, after the 12-day war, after negotiations to buy specific Chinese missiles for hitting ships, especially even for aircraft carriers, under the designation CM-302, as well as shoulder-launched missiles purchased from Russia, Verba, it shows that the Islamic Republic also believes the option of war is the most important thing America is pursuing. And of course, Mr. Trump, as always, is saying in his final remarks that the person who ultimately decides to bring negotiations to a conclusion or declare war is personally himself.
Thank you, Artavan Ruzbey, our correspondent from our other studio right here in Washington. Meanwhile, the U.S. president will deliver his State of the Union address to Congress within the hour. Some American officials say Trump will probably also refer to his plans regarding continued negotiations or military action against Iran in the speech. Joining us are national security expert Shaheen Sami from Virginia and Dawn Institute political analyst Omid Memorian from Detroit. Thank you to both of you, gentlemen. Mr. Sami, I'll start with you. Many eyes, especially those of Iranians, are fixed on Congress today to see if the president mentions potential attacks on or negotiations with Iran in his annual speech.
With my respectful greetings to you, dear Mr. Frost, and my very esteemed friend, Mr. Mayor Miriam, and the brave people of Iran. Look, 100%. We absolutely shouldn't have any doubt that because, as was also in the report by my good friend Mr. Ruzbey, when Mr. Ruby brings together this so-called Gang of Eight, these 8 important members of Congress, it really means he has some intelligence, security, and national security issues that he needs to share with them confidentially and in person. Furthermore, we should harbor absolutely no doubt that Mr. Trump intends to forcefully address the critical issue of confronting the Islamic Republic, as widely highlighted in recent news cycles. The massive scale of military deployments and strategic positioning currently visible serves as undeniable evidence that a development of truly major significance is undoubtedly underway at this very moment. I also heard today that Mr. Jack Keane, who is one of Fox Network's military advisors and an influential figure in Middle East affairs, has been going to and from the White House over the past day or two and has had meetings with Mr. Ruby. So we see that they are getting more serious about issues concerning confrontation with the Islamic Republic.
Mr. Memorian, it seems that the moment of decision-making, whether desired or undesired, is approaching for Mr. Trump. How much do you think, whether there's a deal with the Islamic Republic or a potential attack, Mr. Trump's legacy will actually be defined by this very approach he's taken against the Islamic Republic?
I'd like to say hello to you and dear Mr. Sami, our esteemed friend. Look, tonight is a very important night for Mr. Trump in America. As you're following, and as you've mentioned before, well, American people's expectations are different. Tonight is a night for Mr. Trump to talk about his achievements over the past year. 65% of Republicans say the economy is the top issue. Half of Democrats said the economy should be the issue. The second issue they brought up, 12% of Republicans said it should be immigration, and for Democrats, 10% said immigration is the issue. Foreign policy is under 5%, specifically 2 or 3%. When we look at the issue as an Iranian, we realize the very sensitive situation regarding Iran and the attack that is said to potentially happen soon. Tonight, Mr. Trump faces a crossroads, considering Mr. Rubio's meeting with the 8 Congress members. Shah Sami referenced this is a vitally important matter because over the past year, both during the attack on Iran 8 months ago and during the capture of Maduro, Mr. Trump was criticized for needing to inform Congress about these attacks. These are, after all, military attacks, so Congress definitely needs to be kept in the loop. And regarding a potential attack on Iran, Congress had also put a lot of pressure to be informed. Many people note that Mr. Trump needs to discuss domestic issues tonight, highlighting his achievements in the economy and immigration. Meanwhile, Mr. Rubio has gone to the U.S. Congress to hold a meeting that usually takes place before a big event, presenting a notable contrast in the activities of these two leaders. So there have even been speculations about this, that it's possible Mr. Trump tonight might, if an attack is going to happen, actually bring up the Iran issue, meaning start with the Iran issue. But but overall, it can be said that Mr. Trump came into office with the slogan America First and has spent a lot of time on foreign policy over the past year. It really remains to be seen what the fate of this attack will be and what cost it will have for Trump, how he'll be able to sell this to his people, to his voters domestically, given that their first priority is the economy, then the discussion of immigration and other issues.
Mr. Mimari, my colleagues indicate that this meeting, initially thought to be in Congress, is actually supposed to take place at the White House. That might be interesting.
Mr. Sami, many in the Republican Party now, this Republican Party is naturally not the Republican Party of 2003. Part of it is disciplined, another part, figures like Lindsey Graham, well, they're much more eager for.
Regarding a potential confrontation with the Islamic Republic, how can Mr. Trump maneuver, and to what extent does he have the full support of both party branches to enter a military conflict with Tehran?
You're pointing out a key point, but I must say this. Mr. Trump currently, with the shift we've seen from Mr. J.D. Vance, who initially declared that we shouldn't be involved in such interventions, and now has come out saying all decision-making rests with the president, and we must all follow him, is actually showing that the MAGA part of the story that brought Mr. Trump into power for a second term, they are also trying to align themselves with Mr. Trump.
حقیقت داره نشون میده که اون بخش ماگای داستان که آقای ترامپ رو روی کار آوردن برای دوره دوم، اونها هم دارن کوشش میکنن که با آقای ترامپ هم‌آوا بشن.
Why? Simply because influential figures like Miss Laura Loomer and Mr. Mark Levin, who appeared on your own program, are strongly insisting on a different path. They are exerting significant pressure on Mr. Trump to avoid repeating the specific diplomatic mistakes the United States made regarding North Korea, which resulted in the severe consequences that we are unfortunately still forced to contend with in the present day. So I think there's this theory that those who were with him still are, and Mr. Trump has been able to bring the MAGA movement along with him to a large extent. Because, in fact, it's because of his own personality that he says, I'm the one who created MAGA, so you should also follow my point of view.
Mr. Memarian, I ask you the same question. Do you think the voices of non-interventionist figures like J.D. Vance have become weaker now compared to figures like Marco Rubio? Mr. Memarian, your voice cut out. You seem muted.
Yes. Look, Mr. Rubio is definitely the primary person regarding decisions related to Iran, and JD, as vice president, has a much smaller role. The main issue is how Mr. Trump will exit this Iran attack. If an attack happens, what its outcome will be. Regarding immigration, Mr. Trump has had great success domestically in the US concerning controlling the crossing of undocumented immigrants at the country's southern borders. But the performance of the forces related to immigration has caused a lot of dissatisfaction and brought a lot of cost for them regarding the attack on Iran and what will happen. Mr. Rubio is the primary person. It's definitely clear that he has created a consensus, and they've now reached a point where in fact this attack is imminent, unless something strange happens in the future. And it must be said that Mr. J.D. Vance, well, as vice president, must always support the president's policies. It's not something where they would have a disagreement. But the issue that exists is what will be the reaction of Mr. Trump's supporters within the MAGA movement who say America first and that we shouldn't get involved in other wars. Over the past few months, we have witnessed that fissures have emerged within the MAGA movement regarding some of these issues. For example, Tucker Carlson is a TV personality who had a lot of influence within the movement. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a U.S. House representative who, totally clashed head-on with Mr. Trump on various issues, from like foreign policy matters. So we'll have to see how this attack, if it has casualties, will be interpreted within the U.S. and what impact it will then have on our body politic.
Thank you both. I apologize for the audio issues with Mr. Memarian. Thanks to Omid Memarian, a political analyst at the Dawn Institute, and Shaheen Samii, a national security expert from Virginia. I should also mention that tonight, which will be the U.S. President's annual speech to Congress, that's like almost 5 a.m. tomorrow, Tehran time actually, we'll have a special program here on Iran International, and we'll broadcast this speech live for you. Before and after the speech, we'll also talk about it with guests, reporters, and analysts. The U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, has issued a message in Persian inviting individuals with access to sensitive information or special skills to contact them for cooperation. This announcement emphasizes that volunteers' information will remain completely confidential, and guidelines for establishing secure virtual communication have also been provided. The organization has said it hears the people's voices and wants to help them. Meanwhile, the British agency MI6 had previously launched a dedicated dark web portal to attract new intelligence sources from countries like Iran.
Our reporter, Mariam Rahmati, joins us from the UN headquarters.
Mariam, I myself also saw the CIA ad on social media today, which incidentally they had published in Persian. It's like naturally very attention-grabbing for Iranian viewers. You know, what meaning and concept such an awareness campaign has at this sensitive time?
Exactly, Fardad. The U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA, has published this message in Persian and, like, on its Instagram pages and other virtual pages, and it's directly targeted Persian-speaking audiences. And it's explained how someone who has access to important information and is willing to cooperate can securely contact this organization. In this statement, the CIA has explained how one can establish contact with them without leaving a digital trace. Strategies include using fully updated web browsers, activating incognito mode, and also leveraging anti-filtering tools, or the use of the Tor network, which, actually keeps users' personal information and online activities securely hidden from view. And it even said that users can, actually use a separate device to contact them. The organization emphasizes that the security of individuals sending messages is a priority. It asks them to explicitly provide information regarding their job position and level of access to information when making contact to ensure proper handling. Also, in plain language, the CIA says that if you have access to important information about the Iranian government or security matters and are willing to cooperate, you can contact us securely. Anyway, Fardad, the release of this message comes as tensions between Tehran and Washington reach a crucial stage, and speculation about the fate of negotiations has escalated. When the CIA publicly appeals to audiences inside Iran in Persian, it clearly indicates that Washington has moved beyond relying solely on official diplomatic channels. It suggests the U.S. is simultaneously pursuing serious intelligence options and applying indirect pressure on the country. Concurrently, at a time when U.S. carriers are deployed in the region and Washington officials are emphasizing that all options are on the table, the release of such a message has two distinct functions. One is information gathering in the event of entering a crisis phase, and second, sending a direct message into Iran's power structure and exerting psychological pressure on the Islamic Republic before the negotiations in Geneva on Thursday.
Thank you, Mariam Rahmati, our reporter, joining us from the United Nations headquarters in New York. Before the end of the program, I should also mention this. I referred to today's meeting between U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and several senior congressional leaders. Now, Axios, quoting an informed source, has reported that John Ratcliffe, the director of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, who we were just talking about with Mariam actually, is also scheduled to participate in a briefing on Iran today, Tuesday, at the White House alongside Marco Rubio. Thank you for joining us. In about 6 hours, it will be U.S. President Donald J. Trump's annual speech to the U.S. Congress. Don't miss our live coverage at 5 a.m. Tehran time. Thank you for watching 24. You can also watch this program again on YouTube.